Welcome to the Corporate Treasury 101 podcast. In today's episode, we discuss building the future of Treasury talent with Kemi Bolarin. Kemi is an award-winning head of Treasury and chartered accountant, driving financial innovation with AI, machine learning, and process automation. In this episode, we discuss how Treasury leaders can actively nurture talent and create intentional career pathways, the shift from traditional Treasury operations to a commercial and strategic role with Treasury Plus, utilizing data and technology like AI and machine learning to enhance Treasury operations, effective strategies for retaining top talent and keeping employees engaged in Treasury, increasing the visibility and representation of women in Treasury to inspire future leaders, and much, much more. We've been doing this podcast for over 2 years and a half now, and the most listened to episode were always the ones where we talk about career and certifications in Treasury. So we decided to partner up with the AFP, the Association for Finance Professionals, to offer you a $100 discount on all of the AFP's products, including the CTP, Certified Treasury Professional, which is hands down the most renowned and recognized Treasury certification in Treasury out there, and the courses and access to the CTP examination prep platform as well. Check the link in the description to access the discount codes and take your career to the next level. And with that being said, please welcome Kemi Bolarin. Kemi, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
And I have with me today my lovely co-host as well, Eleanor. Welcome on the show as well.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here with you both.
Awesome. So, guys, we're going to talk today about Treasury talent, something I know all treasurers are continuously talking about, a very hot topic at every Your Finance or other Treasury events that go on around the world. Always, Treasury talent is something that's really, really interesting and important. Now, Kemi, I want to start off by putting the question to you like this. Time and time again, and in fact, our first interview on CT101 was with a Treasury recruiter, Mike Richards, huge friend of the show. And the recurring theme that keeps coming up is that people wind up in Treasury by accident more often than not, and not by design, right? It's kind of a career that you kind of fall into. Every treasurer I've spoken to has said more or less that they didn't know Treasury existed when they were doing their studies, but then they got an opportunity or someone said, hey, you should join the Treasury Department, and they fell in love with it, right? Why is that the case specifically for Treasury, you think? And how do we become more deliberate about getting Treasury talent?
I agree. You're absolutely right. Because, in my own case, if I can say that, so many of us kind of stumble into Treasury rather than setting out to conquer it, from day one. In my own case, I think I started out as a chartered accountant, and by sheer luck, I landed in, an internship role with Anderson Consulting. I'm showing my years now. And that's where I got my first taste of Treasury. I mean, honestly, I've been hooked ever since and I've not looked back. But when we think about this sort of accidental phenomenon, stumbling into Treasury, it's mainly because Treasury is not considered a mainstream profession as accountancy. If you think about accountancy and over hundreds of years, it's taken accountancy to get to where it is now. If you go to secondary school, primary schools, you say, oh, somebody's an accountant, you can stand a chance that a child is going to raise up their hands and say, oh, yeah, my mom's an accountant or my uncle is an accountant. But when it comes to Treasury, I'm sure you will see a few sort of question marks there. It's not mainstream. It's not a subject taught in secondary school. Neither is it. Well, I think now it's finding its way into some sort of university curriculum. And hence the reason why you would often hear people say that, well, I started with a degree in geography. And by luck, when I got into a bank, someone talked about Treasury. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe, I'll pick up Treasury as a career. And there's nothing bad in that. From my perspective, it's a golden opportunity. It gives us a golden opportunity to actually shape the future of the profession and how we can nurture talent, from grounds up, and make Treasury a career that people actually, actively seek out as well. So what can we do to make sure that, people are not just accidentally stumbling into Treasury, but instead, deliberately thinking about it? There's quite a few things, that I think we can do. For example, engage, with an organization called Inspiring the Future, and they take it all the way down to the grassroots. While it's not specifically for Treasury, it cuts across all roles, it cuts across all professions, it cuts across gender. But the whole point of Inspiring the Future is for people in profession to go into primary schools, secondary schools, and talk about their profession and flick the light bulb, at that point. And that's something that I do that I think would actually help the treasury profession, taking it down to the grassroots, being able to shout about treasury, from the rooftop, engaging intentionally around people that are already thinking about their profession. We need to take it to the level where students are thinking about their subjects and they're thinking about treasury as a profession, as opposed to arriving at the corporate and then learning about treasury. So from my perspective, it is making sure that we're engaging and we're also creating the awareness more. And I think it's incumbent upon treasurers to take it upon themselves to do that. I have a very good contact whom Eleanor is aware of as well, Adeshola Orimolade. He's a well-known treasury professional, and he's done a really good job of putting out initiatives around treasury boot camps, which is targeted at 16 to 18-year-olds. He also has Treasury 101 programs that is targeted at non-treasury folks that have, expressed interest in treasury. And I think he's currently working on some sort of short-term initiative as well, where he's trying to get treasurers to sponsor this apprenticeship so that at least non-treasury folks can also have an insight and have a taster into what treasury is all about. So from my perspective, those type of initiatives will help to actually, flick the light bulb. Another aspect of it is around mentorship. Mentorship, again, we can't just use that word enough. It's such a total game changer. Pairing experienced treasury pros with newbies in the world of treasury would help guide them, will help share the knowledge as well as show, what treasury is all about. That treasury is not just about crunching numbers, it's about strategy, impact, and so much more. And also, I think that would also it will also peel the eyes open in terms of, keeping that sort of spark the interest in the industry. Again, it's about creating that sort of awareness and generally, putting the treasury professionals out there, to talk about the profession more.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think Treasury needs to have a little bit more love, in the wider community. When you talk to treasurers and everyone who's engaged in Treasury, they love it and it's a really nice bunch and there's so much passion. But you go even slightly outside, even to other areas of the finance department, and it's still so opaque for people. So just getting a bit more love for Treasury out in the world, awareness. But Kemi, you pointed out you're doing some amazing things yourself. Adeshola's doing some incredible things. But I also want to use this opportunity that we're talking about here today is to kind of issue a bit of a call to arms to some of the Treasury associations, because I think there's so much more that they could do to raise the awareness of the Treasury profession, engaging more with those universities. You said, Kemi, some of them are kind of taking on board Treasury and they've got courses or at least modules on Treasury, but there's so much more that could be done. Yep. So it would be really great to get people to come together on this rather than it being a case of individuals having to fight for the profession. Yes. Maybe we can get the profession to mobilize together. That would be the ultimate dream, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So what do you think would be the immediate next steps, a little bit practically, Kemi, right? If I'm a group treasurer or I'm a senior treasurer that feels like they're inspired by all your words there, both you, Eleanor and Kemi, and they want to get out there and inspire the next generation of treasurers. How did you do it? What's the immediate next steps? Do we reach out to universities or local universities? Is it even the high school level that we should be attacking? What's the right first step for a treasurer out there that's inspired?
I think, yes, this getting early with education is quite important, because what that happens is for Treasury is, we are only, if we leave it for the sort of the natural ecosystem to build through A-levels, university, business schools, by the time the person arrives at our door, it's a really thin pool, that we are putting our talents from. So getting in early, and just as Eleanor said there, the call to arms, the Treasury community just need to collaborate on this particular aspect and then come together and think about what would be the best way, to get the academic institutions involved, the business schools involved, bring Treasury onto their radar. So much so that when students are thinking about their profession and their career, ultimately that Treasury seat is being sown. It's a matter of, and there's a lot of good stuff being done, like Dominic Lynch is doing, putting together some sort of agenda around Treasury. Those are the kind of materials that need to find its way, to this sort of academic institutions. And then included in some sort of curriculum. It needs to be actively promoted across the sort of the academic institutions. Then if we leave the sort of getting early with education to the side, and hopefully, the academic institutions latch on to that idea. The other aspect where we can, appeal to the Gen Z will be showing off the cool side, which is the tech side. Everyone is talking about technology now. Gen Z and beyond Gen Z is all about technology. And Treasury is at the forefront of that for corporates. We are engaging in the use of technology, and that can be the language that we can use to actually attract the pool, the talents that we require for the profession. So it's just being real about technology, learning to speak that language that will act as a conversion, into that sort of treasury profession. And there's a lot that's been said there. I mean, you go on to LinkedIn as well. There's a lot that's been said around treasury and AI, and hopefully that will pique the interest of the sort of the tech savvy talents, that we need within the industry.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much going on with AI. It's so cool. And
yeah.
There's people using it for all sorts of things. Like I was speaking to one guy who needed to write a new treasury policy, and he just used ChatGPT to kind of give it a go. And he was kind of there, but he tweaked it a little bit, but there's loads going on. But you're right, it's one of those sort of sexy topics that we can bring Treasury alive with a little bit more, hopefully.
So when you attack the grassroots, Kemi, if I was to go in to speak to 18-year-olds, right, and say, look, Treasury is a career, and it's really fun, it's really interesting. Here's all these people that wound up in an accident, but they stuck around. And that's what I found interesting about Treasury professionals. They wind up there by accident, but then they stick around because they're like, actually, I've not had many roles that are so multifaceted. I've not had so many roles that I've seen so many different parts of the business that have been called in as experts or as advisors on so many key business decisions. Because do we have the cash to be able to finance these decisions? How would we manage that? If we want to move into this new countries, how would we go about our FX and hedge it and everything like this? Like these things, Treasury gets used up in a lot of key decisions, and that's what people tend to love about it. But there's no Treasury degree, as you mentioned, right? That's one of the big barriers that there is. So what advice do you give an 18-year-old that's about to go to college or university and say, hey, look, there's a degree in Treasury, there's a career in Treasury that you would really love. But then he's like, okay, what do I study to do that? Or what do I study to get into that? What would you say to them?
And that's it. As you said, there's no sort of base degree in Treasury. However, they are connected degrees that can be studied that then gives you sort of the foundation to lead up to your Treasury qualification. I suppose we need the free thinkers as well. I don't want a situation where people are like shoehorned into a particular degree or a particular profession quite early in life. The fact that we have varied foundations, we've got varied blocks, I think is what has led to the stayers in Treasury, the different thinkers that you need in Treasury. But to a 16 and an 18-year-old, by sowing the seed, we're saying that there's a career, in Treasury, and this is what Treasury represents, pretty much, selling the sort of the 7-8 pillars of Treasury, to the 16, 18-year-old in really basic terms and not using words that would scare them off. But also saying that, if you're thinking about a university sort of degree, then there are linked degrees that you can study. If you want to go the business side, you can do your sort of business degree. There's accounting. I think you'll find that most treasurers probably have, the accounting degree as well. So there's some finance degrees that you can study that can then lead you on to your sort of the treasury professional qualification. Then you have the ACT, which is the ultimate standard, right? For our sort of treasury qualification. Beyond that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a university qualification. Some people can decide to take on the apprenticeship role, which I think is very, very important. So for the 16 to 18-year-olds, you have the ones deciding to go in for a university degree. You have the ones that are saying, well, we want the apprenticeship. Now, that's again where the Treasury sponsorship comes into play, whereby do we really have structured apprenticeships for 16 to 18-year-olds? For example, if you want if you want to progress in engineering and you don't want to go via the university role, there are apprenticeships for 16 to 18-year-olds, but I don't think there are similar apprenticeships in the treasury profession. So again, we all have to come together and ensure that we're putting out resources to create those apprenticeships opportunities for 16 to 18-year-olds and then nurture them, through the system.
Great stuff. Well, Kemi, I wanted to move on just to talk about how Treasury has progressed itself, because I've been writing about Treasury for 16 odd years now. And over that time, particularly in the last 5 years, we've spoken a lot more about Treasury becoming a strategic function. And we've got this whole concept of Treasury Plus emerging. So it's sort of the shift from traditional Treasury operations to a more commercial and strategic role. Just tell us a little bit about what Treasury Plus actually means to you.
Yes, there's a lot being said about Treasury Plus, right? And for me, when we think about Treasury Plus, it's around the concept of Treasury evolved, the evolution of Treasury. And there's a lot that's been said in recent years, in particular around, what does the evolved Treasury look like? What is the evolution of Treasury? It's stretching our role beyond what you call traditional Treasury. As Hassan said, earlier on, we talk about, when we think about Treasury, talk about Treasury as the sort of the cash manager, the team that ensures that, that our bills are paid and that, we've got cash, in the bank.
Yeah.
To meet our needs. So that's the evolution of Treasury, and it's been discussed in recent years, particularly since the pandemic. So Treasury Plus is all about taking Treasury from being just the behind-the-scenes number cruncher to becoming strategic heavyweights in the business. And that's what's happening now. The business partnering is stronger than the sort of your traditional role of cash and liquidity manager. It's about treasurers not just managing cash and liquidity, but actually stepping up to shape, broader business strategies and create real value. So they are seen as, they're tweaking the ears of the CFO. The CFO is seeing the treasurers as a key business partner that sits around the table with them and get involved in strategic matters around mergers and acquisitions. How can you fund, your mergers and acquisition efficiently? How can you actually integrate the business in such a way that you also achieve the synergies that probably, was the key reason behind, those mergers and acquisition. So for me, it's Treasury Plus is a game changer, because also as a Treasury person, I need to also understand how to stretch my role in such a way that I'm not sitting in that sort of traditional role, and I'm seen as a core business partner, for the sort of the wider business. It's beyond getting the bills paid and keeping the cash flowing. Is a role that has transformed into something really bigger. The corporate treasurer of today has a more strategic decision-making role. And quite often, truth sits at the table. And with that, that's increased the ownership. And that comes a long list of new tasks, which falls within the treasury costs, driving the financing strategy, influencing commercial decisions, and leading digital revolution. So for me, Treasury Plus in a nutshell is just that sort of stretched role, moving over and beyond your sort of traditional role, and then being seen as a key strategic business partner in your sort of corporate organization.
Yeah, it has evolved so much. You're so right. But you mentioned there the digital side of things. And I'm just wondering how much of this is being driven by technology, but also how can treasurers leverage technology to transition away from all of those operational, manual, time-consuming tasks to make sure that they are doing that strategic value add? What kind of things should they be looking at?
It's a lot, from my perspective, technology is that sweet weapon that we all need to ensure that we all need to ensure that is sitting, within our sort of area of remit. Ultimately, we want to move away from traditional treasury number crunching behind the scenes across spreadsheets, but instead, assigning repetitive tasks to, automation, assigning that to systems to do, just so that human beings are freed up to do what we're put on earth to do, which is the sort of thinking. So technology is seriously, is a game changer for treasurers. And I see that, we are also driving the sort of digital revolution in the corporate world. There's so much that is offered to the treasury profession as it is in terms of technology. And the days of one size fits all is gone now. It's become a best in breed, best in class, being able to exist in an ecosystem of technology that allows us to stay interconnected amidst, the various sort of technology that has been put our way to consume. So again, what is the whole point of technology in our world is to make us efficient, to make us more accurate, and to make sure to unlock, sort of the insights that sit within our data. And of course, we know that this is beyond human delivery. You need the systems. Hence the reason why we just have to be techie savvy and make sure that we understand the technology that is out there. It is not about consuming anything that is bright and shiny out there, but it's consuming with intention, making sure that, we have our set goals, our set objectives. What is my set goals? What is my set objectives? What do I need for my cash flow forecasting? How accurate do I need it to be? And how standardized do I need it to be? Is there technology out there that can enable, that will deliver those metrics to me? That is where, we need to engage in the use of technology. I know TMS, we've done TMS to death, but it's now a matter of what is the TMS delivering to you? How is the TMS connected to other sort of good, agile solutions that have been sent our way? Again, it's about staying as a solid business partner to the CFO. How do you become a solid business partner to the CFO? It's just making some sort of getting good insights out of the data, and you need your technology to crunch that, to deliver the metrics that you require, to be able to model scenarios that then, gives you very good insights as to what the next business decision would be.
Yeah, I like what you said about the picking it with intention, though, because you're right, there's so many shiny things out there and so much to think about and so much potential, but you really have to have your game face on when you're thinking about what tech you're really going to deploy. But the other side of the tech, Kemi, is the talent that goes alongside it. And, tech is only one piece. We need the human piece to complete it all. So if we're thinking about reaching this Treasury Plus state and making sure that we're being super, super strategic, what kind of talent do you think is needed within the team to do that? How can we begin to shape those talents within our teams? What advice do you have for the listeners?
I mean, Treasury Plus is the leveling up, right, from being a top-notch craftsman to becoming a strategic architect. And it's about equipping Treasury team with more than just financial know-how. We need to be strategic thinkers. We need to be analytical wizards and effective communicators. So what's the lowdown here? What do we need to upgrade to Treasury Plus? From my perspective, it's very strong on analytical skills. Our team should be pros at digging into complex data and turning it into actionable insights. We need to think about advanced analytics and financial modeling skills, because at the end of the day, there's value, and we need to unlock the value in the data that we sit on. The second bit is on strategic thinking. Our team need to look beyond our daily operations. We're talking about Treasury Plus. So Treasury Plus is an extension of Treasury. So we're saying if we want to extend our remit, if we want to extend our responsibility, we want to extend our value beyond Treasury, then we also need to look beyond our daily operations and understand how our decisions actually fit into the bigger picture. So if we're entrusted with cash flow forecasts, and it's not just guaranteeing the liquidity in the next 5 days or the liquidity in the next month or so, it's actually giving an insight into our cash flow patterns and how we can make better decisions, because we're able to give accurate cash flow forecast. So this means grasping, market trends and aligning financial strategies with the company goals. Then the third important aspect is around communication and collaboration, because at the end of the day, as Hassan said, how do you explain your ideas to the 16 to 18-year-olds? That will not leave us, because we need to be able to communicate our thoughts. We need to be able to communicate our value in such a way that the non-Treasury professional amongst us will understand what we're talking about, understand the initiatives, we understand the goal. So beyond that, shaping the talent will then mean understanding the value, the people that are within our team, and then ensuring that we're investing in their development. We are also investing in their training, and we're also investing in their growth within the company. At the end of the day, we need people to drive our initiatives. We need people to drive our goals. But as a leader within the Treasury team, it's quite important to ensure that we stay connected to our team. We understand what we have and also are able to assess our gaps. And there's nothing wrong in, if you have a gap, you can go out there and seek resources that would help fill the gap. For example, data scientists, business analysts, they're becoming key talents, key essentials in any Treasury team. So it's either we develop the team, if we think there's a gap in data science or business analytics, then it's either we develop the team. If there's someone that shows, the potential or wants to develop in that area, then we can invest in training that person. Otherwise, we can then go out there and access the pool of data scientists and business analysts that are out there. So from my perspective, is keeping those analytical skills, strategic thinking, communication and collaboration as the top skills that we require in order for us to shift to Treasury Plus.
Yeah, makes sense. Great stuff.
Nonsense. I like the point specifically that you're talking around data. And I have a question for you that we often ask our guests. And do you think it's easier to turn a data analyst into a treasurer or a treasurer into a data analyst?
Oh dear, that's a good question. My easy answer would be, I think it will be easier to turn a treasurer into a data scientist. It's my perspective, and the reason why, I'll tell you the reason why I'm thinking along that line is mainly because a treasurer is already versed in, what they want, what they need, and what they know. And for that reason, a treasurer can go out there and then train in how to data mine, how to convert their data into some sort of actionable insights. In my own case now, I know this has nothing to do with data, but this is more around UiPath. So I'm learning UiPath because I just want to understand how we can automate our repetitive tasks and free up time, from the manual. And I think it will be easier for a treasurer to do the same thing around data science. It's about data visualization, data manipulation. There's so many tools out there, Microsoft BI, that can be used, to augment data analysis. Now, turning a data scientist into a treasurer is also possible, but one is easier than the other from my perspective. And I'm waiting for someone to tell me, no, that's not the case, Kemi. In terms of data scientists to treasurers, I think data scientists have become really premium now in the industry. So we need to be throwing good money at the data scientists in order to get them to stay to become a treasurer. It's not impossible if we're able to show where we're adding value in terms of data mining to a data scientist. Maybe that would also enable the data scientist to stay in the profession and want to convert to be a true treasurer and then apply these valuable skills ultimately to treasury as a profession. But one is easier than the other, but both are not impossible.
That's really interesting. I agree with you entirely. The only additional advantage I see to a data analyst moving into treasury, or at least someone with that base skill and then learning treasury as the skill that you apply that to, is that you kind of have a better understanding of what's possible. And that would be my follow-up question to that is, as someone that's taking the initiative, as a treasurer that's taking the initiative to learn data, how can a treasurer go about improving their data skills by even knowing where to start? Because a lot of the time you don't know the value data analysis and data science can bring to treasury because you don't know what data science and data analysis there is out there to be done. So how can a treasurer systematically go through the pools of data that they have and start that journey of learning how to drive action with insights out of it?
I mean, from what I'm deducing from that question is, you often hear the word around data lake, right? And that's the sort of the pool of data that we're talking about. And, how can we turn that into a powerhouse for strategic decisions, if I can get my word out, and make the data work for us? Essentially, we just need to start by defining our clear objectives. What exactly are we looking for? Because we can all talk to data lake, we can all talk to, data analysis, data science. What exactly is our objective? What is our goal? And I think that needs to be defined right from the onset. Figure out what really matters, for our strategic goals, whether, that's cash flow forecasting, liquidity management, risk assessment, or even investment performance. We need to pinpoint and define those key metrics. and then set the ambitious goals. What are we looking to achieve with this data? Are we looking to boost forecasting accuracy, or are we looking to fine-tune our investment strategies? And once we have a clear objective, which is the end goal, and I think we can then start, as to, okay, this is the end goal. Where do we start from? And it starts with the data. So yes, we're sitting on this data lake. What do we do with it? What is it actually? And it starts with integrating and cleansing the data. Because until we scrub and standardize our data, we'll be garbage in, garbage out. Because in order for us to get something reliable, get reliable insights, it's key for us to ensure that we have good data quality. So we know we've defined our goals. Now, this is the source data. How do we clean it up? How do we standardize? And that will take a lot of time and effort. Both the instances of being able to convert our data to actionable insights requires one, time effort upfront, which includes that defining objective and, cleansing our data. And then there's the application of technology as well. So you require that sort of technology investment. So after we've defined our objective and we've cleansed our data, then we need to then engage in technology. And it can be as simple as Power BI. And it can be as advanced as only got those words. You've got the AI, machine learning, RPA out there. But once we've defined our objectives, we know what the ultimate outcome is, what is the goal. And then we engage that sort of technology to ensure that it then processes the data in such a way that it gives us the outcome. You've got the dashboard. What do you want to see? Do you want to see, what your cash flow pattern would look like in 12 months' time based on historical trend? Or, would you want to be able to highlight where your peaks and your troughs are in terms of liquidity or cash requirement? All of that, would be the outcome of your advanced analytics. Then following on from that, it has to be dashboard based. We don't want a situation where, and it has to be systemized as well. The last thing we want is to be churning data and create another cottage industry of spreadsheets and data crunching, here and there. It has to be systemized in such a way that the level of accuracy is high, it is on time, and is not dependent on somebody being at their desk and clicking on buttons. So once you have your outputs in form of a dashboard that is visual, that people can consume as simply as possible, then we need to share that. You need to share that data. Get collaboration from different teams as well. Get their inputs to see, is this useful to you? Or do you need additional information that would augment it? And then following on, it becomes continuous improvements because there will be tweaks here and there. But that will be my sort of 5 kind of points towards converting your data into a powerhouse.
No, really interesting. So a key part of all of this, Kemi, is the CFO. Now, we mentioned a couple times there that, the treasurer is a key part of enabling the CFO to make the right strategic decisions based on the insights and the ownership that the treasurer has, all right? And this data links into that really well. Dashboarding, for example, is a really interesting way to do that. Being able to provide valuable live data and would make visibility is a key part of treasury in all aspects. How can treasurers do a better job of using data to influence the CFO? And influence, obviously, in a good term, but let's say expose the CFO to all the opportunities that are out there in their balance sheet, in their cash flow and their cash statements and where things are currently and where things are projected to go. How can treasurers do a better job of that?
Again, from my perspective, I'm sure, well-placed treasurer is already doing a good job of being able to provide good information to their respective CFOs. However, again, I will always put the treasurer in the middle of technology and using technology to actually enhance the continued delivery of that value to the CFO. And you talk about unlocking the value from balance sheets as well. Again, this will be based on data, right? So you have balance sheets sitting on there, and a CFO is one that would always want to release value to their shareholders. So again, being able to analyze your balance sheet in such a way that, you can come across as using your balance sheet efficiently, it's quite important. But treasurer would have a toolbox. Treasurer should look for a toolbox of technology that would enable it, break down that balance sheet into chunk size, bite size, and then be able to, connect the dots in terms of, where do we have value? It just provides that sort of visibility. Are we holding on to too much? Do we have a high level of CapEx locked on our balance sheets? Is there a way that we can actually unlock that CapEx, make our capital liquid, and then, look for alternative forms of financing that wouldn't really be capital intensive? Again, is using your sort of the financial modeling. There are lots of financial modeling tools, that are out there that the treasurer can use. The way I think of technology, for a treasurer is imagining a chef that has an amazing set of knives, and only using it to chop the veggies, and then missing out. Meanwhile, you can learn to use them for all kinds of advanced cooking techniques, that you can then use to whip up a gourmet meal, and then wow your guests. Technology, from my perspective, is that advanced sort of knife skills, that would enable us able to analyze your balance sheet. Think about, what's the historic trend, within your balance sheet, and what can we model into a balance sheet in terms of the future, and then release the value from balance sheet. So it's engaging. It's again, we talk about in this increasing kind of complex geopolitical environment that we're in. If you've got cash invested in certain regions, how can you model scenarios in such a way that, can give you that opportunity to make really snap decisions around where your cash is sitting, at what point should I actually extract my cash from a certain region, or what can I even do in terms of investing my cash? Again, it's applying those sort of advanced analytics, which is pretty much predictive analytics, looking at past trends and modeling into your sort of scenario using your Power BI to model the scenarios and give you the sort of an insight into the future. And you base your decision based on, the outcome from that analysis.
Awesome. So loads to think about there, Kemi, in terms of technology, but I wanted to bring the conversation back to talent for a minute, because that's kind of where we started off, and it's also where the future is going. So we spoke about nurturing talent and that early stage talent, but one thing that we don't talk about maybe so much is how you actually retain really good talent once you've got it in your team. And it's sometimes quite difficult to find the right incentives for people, or to find different areas to stretch them. So how do we go about ring fencing top talent once we've managed to get it? How do we hold on to it? What are your strategies that you'd share with the listeners?
You're absolutely right there, Eleanor. Attracting talent is just the beginning. Retaining top talent requires a genuine sort of commitment, to their growth, well-being, and sense of purpose. So first and foremost, it's important to create that culture, where people feel valued and heard. Regularly check in with your team, not just about work, but about their career aspirations and how they're feeling, overall. It's, from my perspective, I'm quite big on investing in people. At the end of the day, even if, your talent decides to go elsewhere, I believe that, through some sort of relationship, you'll get the value of having trained a talent from whatever organization they go into. So from my perspective, I would always ask corporates to think about, opportunities of continuous learning offered to their team. For my treasury team, it's also quite important that they stay relevant and that they stay updated, and also ensure that they're on top of trends out there, because it's only through their vision, through their insights, that we can develop what we do internally. So there's no point in us holding on to that qualification that we had, 10, 20 years ago, and thinking that will serve us in this current environment, particularly, given the way the exponential development in technology. So investment in development is really good. What you put in is what you get out. And I always like to empower my team by sowing the seed of the development. For my team as well, on an annual basis, we have a continuous professional development plan, whereby we all come together at the start of the year and say that, okay, these are the seminars we're going to attend. These are the courses we're going to attend. These are the CPDs that we're going to ensure we complete in the year. And with that, I can guarantee the fact that at least we're staying relevant at the minimum. Another key factor is actually providing a clear path for advancement. You will come across talented individuals, and if we can't demonstrate what next looks like for them, they will soon be gone. And if you've invested so much in your talent, I think the last thing is to watch that talent walk out of the door. So while we're developing the talent, it's also quite important for us to ensure that we have a clear path for advancement and they can see how their roles are evolving. And maybe not necessarily within Treasury. At GXO, we're very big on that sort of cross-training, cross-transfer within GXO. And we've also found that by cross-training and doing cross-transfer, we're retaining our top talents as well. And there's cross-application of skills across team. It leads to growth opportunities. Finally, I would say fostering a positive and collaborative work environment is also very important, because then the talent will feel valued and will feel heard, and also will want to stay engaged, within the company. So from my perspective, it's about purpose and it's about the person, making sure that, we have both well connected.
Yeah, and that culture side of things is so important, like you say, saying that people feel connected and heard. And as part of that, I wanted to talk briefly about women in Treasury, which is a topic that's close to both of our hearts. And I want to just give a shout out to Guillaume and Hassam here for working really hard to get women on this season of the podcast and showcase some of the amazing female talent that's in the Treasury world. We know that there's still an issue with getting kind of equal representation. We go to conferences and quite often, we're outnumbered fairly heavily by the men. So when we're thinking about those talent retention strategies, how can we go about increasing the visibility of women in Treasury and getting women into those more senior positions as well? Because there's definitely an issue with that. What are your thoughts?
My thought is around, there's no entry barrier, for women when it comes to Treasury. So I can't say I've experienced any sort of entry barrier, which means that, that leads to this question as to what can we do to increase that representation. And I think it's more the visibility more than anything else, because many organizations do a really good job of spotlighting women in Treasury. TMI is one. Treasury Today does an awesome job of ensuring that, they put it out there, these other women in Treasury, and they share their success stories, which is really good. In a way, I don't even know what the percentage is. Maybe that would be my homework after today, to find out from ACT as to what's the gender percentage in terms of the ACT members. But it's the visibility and the clarion call to the community as well, community of women in Treasury, to just continue to work hard, to remain visible. And because you can only be what you see. And that's the passion. That's what drives me. That's the reason why, I do what I do, particularly from the sort of minority ethnic point of view and from the women aspect of it as well, from the female gender. I just want to make sure that I'm doing my bit out there and showing people that are thinking about the profession that, well, there's somebody like you in this profession. There's no entry barrier. So it is by enriching the pipeline. I think for most of us, as we said, you accidentally fall into Treasury. But enriching the pipeline will increase the representation. So again, we need to take it down to the grassroots. We're talking about the 16 to 18-year-olds, and hopefully, we're able to enrich the pipeline there. There's a lot that corporates do. There's a lot that organizations do towards ensuring that, we're increasing that representation, which is all encompasses included in sort of the DEI initiatives for corporates. But we need to just ensure that we make the work environment more inclusive, where women feel supported, they feel empowered to thrive. We need to start actively recruiting women into Treasury roles. I don't think there's anything to suggest that we're not actively recruiting women, but we are pulling from a very thin pipeline. Hence the reason why it looks like the representation is still very thin. But again, ensuring that there's a clear path for growth for women that are in the organization and that are already in the organization. What I think is quite important as well is the element of mentoring amongst women. I know there's mentoring in general across organizations, and I don't know how much of this has been done already, but it almost feels like we need to start pairing senior women Treasury professionals with sort of newcomers or junior Treasury professionals within the industry, just to ensure that, again, as I said, you can only be what you see. So if a junior Treasury professional can see what the future looks like, that maybe has an opportunity for such a professional to remain within the treasury profession. But in terms of visibility, we just need to do more as individuals. So while the organizations are sharing, shining their spotlight on our success stories, we also need to do more by going into the institutions, going into primary, secondary schools, talking about ourselves. I think my family is already converted. I think my children are converted. But, it's just quite important, for us to talk a lot more, be more visible, talk about our projects and humanize it. Because at the end of the day, you have women, some are mothers, some are not, some have got children, some don't. Just being able to show the different aspects of women within Treasury will be really good. But I think it's more individual now more than anything, because we do have lots of organizations that are doing really good work about spotlighting women in Treasury. We just need to ensure that we're not tired, because visibility matters. And when we see other women, then we're more than likely to aspire to become them. So, yeah, let's keep the spotlight on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually have the stats because we've done this. We did a post on this once at Corporate Treasury 101. So,
right,
22% of all ACT members are female.
Wow.
Whereas of all the students that the ACT has ever taken, it's 33%. So somewhere between
so
that
there's
number.
Coming through, but we need to retain them and make sure they get into those top levels as well. Okay,
yes.
Great stuff. And Kemi, anything else you'd like to see the industry do around women in Treasury while we're here? I know you mentioned the mentoring. Just thinking, what else do you think we need that's not there at the moment?
Yeah, I think the mentoring is key. Maybe we need to have a database now. I was thinking about it the other day, maybe there has to be something similar to LinkedIn, where you have a database of all these women in Treasury, and you do like a geographical map of where they are, the companies that they are, and this will be available to, anyone that wants to consume it. And if you click on, Scotland as an example, then it will pop out and tell you that, there are 4 women, that are in the Treasury profession in Scotland. And if they're open to being connected, then they can be connected. And I think that, from my perspective, that seems to be the missing link. We're all dotted around the place, but how would aspiring Treasury professional know to connect with them? LinkedIn has become a huge mammoth of professionals that, looking for that woman in Treasury can be a needle, in the haystack. So from my perspective, if we can all come together and create a database of women in Treasury and get people to sign up for it, maybe that will be a start of the visibility. And aspiring Treasury professionals can then reach out and have that sort of interaction with them.
Yeah, that would be an amazing idea. Let's see if we can get something up and running. Awesome. Hussam, anything you wanted to ask?
No, I think, Kemi, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to find out more about you and GXO Logistics, where can they go and the work that you guys are doing there?
Yes. So, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts. To get in touch with me, I've got a LinkedIn profile. I think you can add it somewhere. I do sometimes share my insights and updates, across LinkedIn. In terms of GXO, we're very big on the sort of the robots and the technology side, offering intelligent solutions to our various customers and partners. And again, GXO Logistics has got a website. If anyone needs latest developments, updates, please, log into www.gxo.com. We're also active on social media. We're on X, we're on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if they're on Instagram or not. But, on a personal basis, I'm on LinkedIn, but GXO, all the sort of social media, their handle there on it.
Kemi, Eleanor, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome.